across the globe by millions.
Chris Thrall, welcome to the show.
Thank you, Kerry.
Great to have you here today. Obviously, tense times right now for most of the, well, not most, but a lot of the British population. And so I wanted to get to speak to you today because you are a Royal Marine Commando by trade, and now you're very much a spiritual teacher.
I have to say rest in peace, because there's a gentleman called Bill Donahue that died this week. He was an absolute legend, and what he did is he took scripture and I don't know if that's going to come on backwards.
Dictionary of All Scriptures and Myths by G.O. Gaskell.
Yeah, and when you hear of the the enlightened ones or whatever, and it falls on deaf ears if you've got no idea what people are talking about. But essentially, it's these what's the word for it? It's people that have walked the path and developed something called Gnosticism. Gnosticism is knowing, so knowing the divine, as opposed to what you get through organized religion, which is blind belief in the divine. And one of the absolute legendary scholars was a chap called Bill Donahue, and he's got loads of content up on YouTube, and every episode he decoded a passage from the Bible to tell you what it really meant. Now, this is fundamental to anyone's understanding who wants to A, get to grips with what the New World Order is, but B, how they're controlling people. And when you look at a small stolen state, as I always refer to it, the fiefdom of the European banking aristocracy, who founded it off their, off a certain Balfour Agreement, then go to Scripture and understand, for example, Moses is the Old Testament pineal gland, where Jesus is the New Testament pineal gland. That leading the Israelites, Isra and El, is Isis, feminine energy, or the moon, represented by the moon. Ra is obviously the sun god, so that's masculine energy. So that's your electromagnetism. And it's just an allegory for when you get your body firing by doing the things. And a little example of which is when you come back from the gym, you feel that you feel different. You feel, you feel like you're in a nirvana, in a paradise. That's a little indicator. When you get these things right, you permanently live in that state of well-being, so long as you maintain a few behaviors. So in the scripture, Israel is just an allegory for when it says God's chosen ones, it's saying your way of being is the chosen ones. Your thoughts, your enlightened thought is the chosen ones. It's not talking about a group of people who, for some crazy reason, think they're more special than everybody else. And in allegory, crossing a body of water, anything to do with water, so Moses striking the stone and water coming out of it, leading the Israelites, the enlightened thought, across the Red Sea. Red stands for the emotional body. It's an allegory for people waking up. And when you wake up, when you cross the Red Sea, so the emotional body of water, when you realize that this 3D existence isn't just all there is, there's a lot more going on here, then you enter a state of nirvana that in Old Testament scriptures referred to as the land of milk and honey. Milk and honey being serotonin and DMT that's produced by your pineal gland and your pituitary gland, which are the Is and the Ra, the electrical energy and the magnetic energy. And your brain it creates something called a torus field, so an energy field, which then synchronizes with the bigger torus field created by the universe that we live in. So that is enlightenment or spirituality. Nothing to do, and I'm sorry to upset people, but nothing to do with crystals or smoking drugs or becoming a hippie or whatever people, you quite often hear people say, oh, he's lovely, he's very spiritual. And yeah, there's a lot of lovely people out there, but that doesn't mean that they're not going to die of cancer next year, because the way that they're living their life is not in accordance with the true transcendence, as it were. Sorry, Kerry, I feel like I'm blowing an awful lot over your wonderful audience right from the start, but I spent I left the military in 1995. 30 years now I've been trying to sort of save my own life by learning all this stuff. And I say to anyone out there, that might sound a long time, but if it takes 30 years to save your life and then you get another 30 years on top of it, that's a really good deal. This stuff's worth learning.
Do you think then that people that have had the V, that if they were doing what you were doing, they wouldn't need to detox because they would get taken, the universe would protect them? Or because I still think it's a good idea for people to detox.
Yeah, no, we're not talking like voodoo or juju. I can't, you can't fix a broken. That's not what spirituality will do. Is it will let you know that you are just a divine but you are a manifestation of the divine. So life is one big energy system. In it, if you think of it like a silly analogy, is God's up there one day, he's bored, he hasn't invented Xbox yet, and he's bored, and he says, right, what can I do to cure? I'll tell you what I do. I'm going to take a piece of me and create life, or split in the atom, or rib from Adam, whatever allegory people want to use. I'm going to create this life, and this life is going to evolve, and eventually, by the sheer randomness of this eternal experiment, it will create intelligent life. And I want to see, will that intelligent life ever get clever enough and ordered enough to realize they are me, they are, they are God experiencing life subjectively. And of course, at the moment, we're sadly very far from that, because we've let a cabal of maniacs control us since they took control of the money supply, which is about 4,000 years ago. So with respect to I call it the procedure. Everyone knows what procedure you're talking about, right? I would highly suggest understanding your alkalinity.
I actually don't know what you mean. No, what do you mean by that? Can you just say it another way? What
procedure? Well, during the medical nonsense, they were trying to get everyone to have a certain procedure, weren't they?
Oh, you mean the in 2020?
Yeah. So I'd say for people that are concerned, my first course of action for everything, and if I could only teach your audience one thing, is understand that your body is a living organism, and as such it has a pH balance. That's the balance that your body comes to at an average over the course of a year, factoring in the different seasons for food and harvest and food in the nature, crop, this sort of thing. And for human beings, it's 7.25 to 7.45. So if you were to test yourself with these strips that you can buy these on eBay for about £3. You just pop one in your mouth, or you can pee on them. You'll get a slightly different result. But that will tell you if you're acidic or not. And here's the thing, 99.999% of the planet are, because carbohydrate is high on the glycemic index. Glucose is just a form of sugar. So essentially, when you eat a carbohydrate diet, so you have your big plate of pasta or your chips or your potato and this, or, your bread, your sandwiches. So many people say, Chris, I eat so healthily. I have porridge every morning. I'm like, nah, that's why you're ill all the time. It's just an abundance of carbohydrate that you'd never naturally be able to eat in the wilderness, when we wandered the forests, you wouldn't be able to eat a year's worth of rice like in one bowl. That's just so. As such, it's out of our balance. So what happens is your cells can only take so much acidosis, as it's called, before they can't communicate with your DNA, because your cells have to replicate in order to be healthy. And that communication's done through frequency or electromagnetic frequency. And when your cells are so damaged because of the diet you eat that they can't talk, then they start to malfunction. And we all know what that is. We're talking tumors and stuff. So your body, when you get to this state, in all its cleverness, will start to detox. And, I'm being careful of my words here, Kerry, for the sake of your podcast. And don't worry, I say this on mine almost every day. But what the cabal want you to believe, and what they've done through years of programming and taking charge of certain academic papers and pushing them whilst taking these, they want you to believe that your well-being is solely at the responsibility of other people. So if you start I'm using the word well-being for a reason. If your well-being starts to suffer, then that's other people's fault. Well, it's just absolute nonsense. It's your well-being is the way that you live your life. And what your body does is it says, listen, your cells can no longer communicate with your DNA. They're going to start perverting and becoming cancerous. Therefore, I'm putting you in an immediate detox. And when you have trillions of cells all resonating at a high frequency at the same time as these little solvents go around trying to clean them out, that's why you experience these incredible hot sweats and all the stuff coming out of you. So to answer your original question, the first port of call for anything like that is get your acid alkaline balance. And one thing I do, because
I understand what you're saying, to get your body in the right state to, but what I want to do is I want to talk about the situation in the UK as well. Because when you said earlier that like, if you think about it from a woman and a girl's perspective, they're at different threats compared to men. And some of their, concerns are highly valid, right? Because there is a lot more crime and violence against women in the UK now. So what would you say? So yeah, I think we could do a whole podcast talking about how to get our body alkaline. And I think that's really important. But I've got probably, I don't know how many thousands of people saying to me, Kerry, that's all right for you to say that, but we're really scared. We're not, how can we keep safe in England right now? So given you've got this spiritual side to you, or however you want to call it, you're tuned into the universe, and then you've got this military. What would you say to people right now, especially women and girls that are worried in England? Like, how can they keep safe? Because you have got a lot of people just coming in undocumented. We've seen phones of some of these people. They've been having relations with children on the phone. You know what I mean by relations? That's not really the right word, but pictures of doing things to children. There is an increase of attacks on women and girls in the UK. What would you say to those people? I mean, do you think that if you get yourself right spiritually, then you can just get protected? But like, how can they also not just rely on that, but have some physical advice as well?
Yeah, no, again, spirituality is just your internal battle. It's how you do business with yourself. It's not like juju or something, Kerry. You're not going to get forget God. You are God. If you want to go down that route, right? I understand people's concerns. There's quite a lot going on here. If you are that much suffering, anxiety, first port of call is you work on your spiritual battle, because that's the way. You can go to all kinds of therapies for anxiety, and I in my experience, I don't know how much efficacy is in those routes. But one thing that really does work is when you ground yourself through meditation, and you can really offset a lot of anxiety. Now, before everyone jumps in and says, oh, well, you can't beat, Pakistani gangs by meditation. It's like, I'm not saying you can, but what I'm saying is there are things that you can do, and that would be one of them. The second thing is to realize that, it depends where you live. Like, even where I live, it's still, and I'm, touch wood, we don't see the problems that you're seeing in other parts of the country. Therefore, you need to work out in your mind how much of your fear is coming through the mainstream media, who are controlling both sides of the narrative. And don't let them. Their job is to keep you in trauma-based mind control, which was the whole nonsense about the medical stuff, wasn't it? Oh, it's going to kill granny, and it could get, and we saw it with, like, before that, it was Afghanistan and Iraq, and you're all going to die in 50 minutes and this kind of thing. So that's the thing, is don't fall prey. If the mainstream media is scaring you that much, just do what all the rest of us done. Just turn it off. Don't watch it. It's evil. It's just the mouthpiece of the cabal. But in reality, is all your safety precautions that you'd normally take. If you are in an area where you feel you could be at risk, don't go to places alone. Let people know when you're going. But I think a lot of what we're seeing is the manipulation of vulnerable young women. I'm talking people with learning disability, people that are runaways, or really not getting on with the parents or whatever in the family unit, that are being exploited by these gangs. And they are a concern. I can tell you that, because one of the more fascinating things I've done in my life, Kerry, I drove to India and back I drove an old school bus, 17 of us. When we got to a certain country, the one that I think everyone knows we're talking about, where the alleged gangs all seem to emanate from, I saw some weird stuff around sexuality and stuff of that not stuff you want in living next door to you, definitely. So it is a concern. But
also, it's not just it. Whilst it is them, I mean, there's also men just walking around on the street, isn't there now? Like,
yeah,
there's women that are getting stabbed in the neck.
There's a lot of undesirables, you can say, which is
and they've been deliberately sent in as well, haven't they, by the likes of George Soros and his NGOs. It's all absolutely deliberate. It's so bad. I mean,
but people, if you want to help yourself, start waking up to it. And I'm sure I'm preaching to the choir with your audience, but stop pretending that all this is the fault of Keir Starmer. Clearly, having your country destroyed in front of your eyes, and everything that you know, taxed to the eyeballs, paying for this, paying for that, random strangers now can send a letter to your home telling you that because you visited your doctor's surgery, you now owe them £60, and you've got 14 days to pay. Otherwise, it goes to 120. And when you refuse because it's your doctor's surgery, then they can string that out for 3 years, 4 years of letters, finally culminating in a court date. And when it comes to court, they say, would you like to just come to some and you're like, screw you. I want to see you in court. So, sorry, Kerry, I'm just making the point that we've all allowed this to happen because people just pay this nonsense and people just put up with this.
A lot of my viewers actually aren't awake yet. No, they're definitely not. So this is what
they will be after this.
Thanks today to our sponsors, Broadcast Ready, which are a global PR agency that was established in 2013 by me. And if you want media trained, you can inquire about media training here on the media training URL. We've worked with solicitors, lawyers, psychologists, surgeons, business owners and entrepreneurs, finance experts, archaeologists. I mean, the list, we have media trained so many people, and I absolutely love doing that. So if you want to be better on your podcasts and to be great on your TV and radio interviews, just fill in the form at the bottom of the page to inquire about getting media trained by me or one of my team at broadcastready.co.uk/media-training. Thanks again to Broadcast Ready for sponsoring this podcast. Really appreciate it. In the 1970s, I spoke to another guest and he said, if this had happened in the 70s, you would have got people on the streets burning mosques and like not taking it. But now it's just like we're all just talking about it and we're not doing anything. What do you think to that?
Well, the whole kind of Fabian communist incursion into our lives has taken place so surreptitiously, Kerry, hasn't it? You know, This is what these individuals do best. It's a slow process of gaslighting and indoctrination, brainwashing. Look at the medical. Imagine how many people out there now are going, "What, this guy reckons that other people don't make you ill." You know, and that's how dumbed down we become. Is that when someone tries to help you, you attack. You attack the messenger. This is why I hate to go back to it, but like, rescue yourself. If you're watching this now, right, and you get what I'm saying, come and look at my YouTube channel. I will help you every step of the way. Rescue yourself first. If you are not spiritually enlightened when the opportunity is there, if you're not prepared to jog around the block in the morning to get air in your lungs because you're a living, breathing human, if you're not prepared to make dietary changes, if you're not prepared to have hot shower, cold shower, stimulate your vagus nerve, which is what as animals who lived in the forest for millions of years, that's what we did. We got wet. Then, stay out there being scared and following, go on your marches in London and wonder why your life's not going anywhere and why there's no changes. The alternative is understand there's a cabal. They operate through something called Sabbatean Frankist doctrine. They control all the religions. They hide behind religion, especially a certain one, which I don't think needs any mention. But at the same time, they manipulate everybody from within it. They do that by falsifying the historical narrative. And they realize that if they can keep people in fear and ego, they can control them. And the one thing that you address when you walk the enlightened path is you're not scared of everything, because everything is the way it's meant to be at this moment in time. And you do your utmost best to understand your ego and how not to let it control your life. So that's a massive gain for people. You can choose to be enlightened. It's totally up to you. Whether you do or not is a different thing. And,
sorry, go
on. And here's the thing, I can tell you as an ex-military, your military's not coming to save you. Why would they? They're order takers. They're people that are deeply entrenched in their ego, and they're, polishing their medals and putting on their funny coloured hats that makes them better than other people. And I'm not knocking our armed forces or anything. I'm just trying to get people to understand. Well, I don't care if people want to understand, great. I'm putting this out for the people that are starting to get it, that no one's coming to save you.
But
you can march, but
they're not going to turn on their own people, though, are they, the military?
Why not? That's their job, is to do what they're told. It depends what their orders are, Kerry, surely. If they're told if they're told there's an uprising down here in Exeter, and these guys are, not in the government's best interest, and we know that our government isn't our government because we've covered that. They're controlled they're just puppets for the cabal. You're a 19-year-old, you've just joined an elite forces unit like I did. You're desperate to go and show off your skills, show what you learn. If anything, if you can kill someone, wow, that's going to make you a man. That's the extent of the indoctrination process you go through in the military, and then you get told there's a rabble, a filthy, dirty rabble of hippies in Exeter that are kicking. Why would you not go down there and you know, if you got the opportunity to obliterate people, you know?
But you know, people are talking about like let's say civil war, even though that's not the right word, a war between Muslims and non-Muslims. People are saying that, aren't they? Wouldn't the military? Whose side would they be on though? You're saying they'll just take orders?
Again, this comes back to an understanding of energy, vibration, and frequency, and where people are on their spiritual journey. You can't get a frog to make you a table. It doesn't work like that. Physically, people would look at you like you're mad. In the same way, you can't get someone who lives in a low vibrational energy state to suddenly become enlightened and see the world the way that you would like them to. They're on a different kick. How many of them military said no to the medical stuff? I can tell you, because I led the Global Veterans Alliance during all of that. We stood up for the kids. We got a letter written by a lawyer via a very wonderful gentleman called Daddy Dragon, or Graham Moore. We got a letter drafted and we sent it to all the headmasters and headmistresses in the country. And it said, if you let any medical people through that gate to touch these children, you will be held accountable under English law. Not the medical people, not the government, not the BBC, you know, you, headmaster, personally, and the teacher who stood by and let it. Well, miraculously overnight, all these areas in the country were saying, "Oh, we've decided against enforcing this procedure on the children." And here's the thing: we managed, despite our efforts, over that 2 years, we went up to London to protect the nurses because they were getting forced to have it, weren't they? And they were like, they were all going to get threatened with a sack. Their livelihoods, all that time, the money they borrowed to put themselves through university, all the time they've sat with elderly grandmas as they died, you know, for you and for me, suddenly, just because they wouldn't, you know, go along with the hooky narrative, they was going to get sacked. Well, we went. Are you
saying that no military took it then?
No, what I'm saying is we went up to London. And after 2 years of working hard to promote ourselves as the Global Veterans Alliance, you know, we're here to fight for the freedom our forefathers gave their lives for, not to be told by a filthy, stinking, evil cabal that we have to do stuff to our bodies, you know, or be shamed because we don't want to. We managed to get 60 people to London, Kerry, after 2 years, 60 veterans. There's, I think, 6 or 7 million veterans in this country, certainly of the blue light services, as you know, we managed to get 60. That is how asleep and in a low vibrational energy state they are. And again, I'm not criticizing anyone. I'm just telling you, a frog is a frog and a fish is a fish.
How indoctrinated we are, you know, yeah.
They're not interchangeable. And when you join the military, what are you doing in reality? You're for a start, it's a career that you're sworn to. Secondly, it's a big ego step. It's like, hey, look at me. Look, all my friends at home are going to see I've made something with my life. Thirdly, it's putting that father who never loved you enough or was never able to show you the love and support you needed. It's a big punch in the face to him, isn't it? Look, Dad, you might have beaten the shit out of me, but look, the army had. Well, what's happening there? You're being sucked in, aren't you? You're being sucked into their narrative. And when your boss comes out, and they're all in this pyramid of control, they're all, the ones at the top are all after their OBEs and their MBEs and their retirement pension so they can go and live in the country and still, you know, call themselves colonel and all this ego stuff that they do. And then go on the BBC and tell them how, you know, Saddam is today's enemy, and next week it's going to be that lot in Venezuela. Greenland are now a threat to, and they're just order followers. They go along with the narrative because that's how indoctrinated they've been their whole lives. Now they're telling their troops, their commanders, their sergeants, their NCOs that, right, this is what we're doing now. Who's going to go, I'm not doing that. It's just not how it works.
I mean, we do need the military, though, because obviously if we didn't have them, we'd just get attacked, wouldn't we, by foreign forces? But I know what you're saying. Like, they are being used for the cabal, right? All these wars.
Why would we
even
attacked?
Saddam Hussein, do the military actually know then, or are they indoctrinated as well? Because Saddam Hussein and Osama bin Laden, they just escaped, didn't they? I don't even think I've heard that it wasn't the real Saddam that was killed. Osama bin Laden escaped. But do the military, like, what are they saying about this situation? Like, do you think they would ever do a coup or anything like that? Or do you just think they do believe that Osama bin Laden was killed that day when the US went in? Do you think they believe that? Because I'm hearing that that's not how it works.
Yeah, well, back then they all believed it, didn't they?
Right, so now because of the internet, they're all
now
waking up a bit.
There'll be people joining up now that well understand Building 7, well understand it was deep state cabal operation, Mossad in league with the other intelligence agencies, with the mouthpiece of the mainstream media, all using the apparatus of a certain small stolen state. That not everyone's that brainwashed in the matrix, but still a significant lot will be like, whoa, in Afghanistan we show they just completely don't get it at all. As in the veterans community, like it's just a difficult one. But you've got to remember, you're not joining up to understand deep state narratives. You're joining up to do a job. And if they say, right, next week, Greenland, we're going in, lads, you're not there, you might go up there going, do you know what, I don't really think Greenland are our enemy. I think this is more about their natural resources to run the massive AI data centers as part of the new, digital system of control. There might be a couple that get it, but they'll still go because, A, you don't want to be left behind on operations. You don't want to be the only guy that goes, do you know what, all the lads went off to Greenland and they had all this fighting and action and I stayed behind and I stood on the main gate guard duty. So
that's a shame because there's, if they go to Russia and fight there, it's just a deliberate attempt to try and genocide white people and Christians. That's what it is. That's what World War II was.
Yeah, but it's also, Kerry, it's getting rid of all the men that could fight, isn't it? The alpha males, people that could actually stay home, stand up for the women, like you say. Suddenly, they're all trying to be, Johnny Hero. They all go off and get themselves killed.
Yeah,
if we go against Russia, they will all be killed. Afghanistan was just running around in the sand with a bunch of guys in flip-flops who had some rusty weapons and a lot of willpower. What was it they said? You've got the watches, we've got the time. Russia, Russia knows what colour underpants you're wearing before you've even decided to put them on in the morning, right? They know what you have for lunch, especially as you probably put it on Facebook. They've got the technology now that can pinpoint you before you even step foot on the battlefield, let alone obliterate you when you are. So it would be the most foolish move. Whether people are gullible enough to, the majority of people I see in internet forums, when it's talking about conscription, they're just laughing, going, yeah, like my kids are going off to that, or I'd go off to that. But there'll still be masses of, was it they call them the Daily Mail readers or whatever it is? There'll still be the masses. But
so you still think the army would go, though, even though they know it's just to get rid of them deliberately?
They don't know it's to get rid of them, do they? That you know that because this is,
They need to watch Europa: The Last Battle as a matter of urgency, which is a 12-hour documentary streamed on its own website if anyone's watching this. And I'm not saying everything in it is real or not, but it's another perspective, and I actually believe quite a lot of it because we're seeing it play out now. What they're doing to Europe. And I've also looked into it, who the leaders are as well. And the royal family. But let's not talk about the royal family now. So this is what these soldiers need to do, is watch that.
Yeah. But like I say,
have you seen it?
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, another chap worth watching is David Irving.
Yeah,
an absolutely incredible historian, one of the most hard done by guys in history. The cabal not only went after him, but they made a Hollywood movie about a film, I should say, about going after. And the guy's, he's just an absolute honourable gentleman that happened to research history and realised that the real narrative wasn't the one that you get told by Hollywood. And what do? They try and cancel people, don't they, and slur them and publicly humiliate and shame them. They call you anti this and anti that if you don't agree with the cabal. If you start to see the cracks in the cabal narrative, they try and shame you. But Kerry, it's not working anymore. People are like, look, call me anti that. I love my kids more than I care what you're saying. So it's all slowly coming down. Everything in life goes in cycles. The main thing is you've got to get your place. You've got to get happy within it, right? And have you seen me? I know I might sound a bit shouty. I'm just labouring the points because it's so obvious when you see all this, and I get that, but like I don't wake up in the morning, cabal, during all the medical nonsense, it just didn't change my life whatsoever. I mean, I physically didn't change it. I don't go out a lot anyway, but if I'd wanted to get in a car and drive to Scotland, none of that would have stopped me. I went running every day. It was a good time to be on YouTube because so many people, a lot of us got our start really sort of back then. I didn't wear the nonsense. If I was with someone and they started to do that, I'd say, "Oi, what are you doing?" "Oh, I'm just, it's no, I don't know. That's my child's future. You are condemning to this utter gobbledygook, superstitious nonsense that somehow other people are responsible for it. Science proves that this physically is not the case. So take that off, start standing up." They were like, "Yeah, you're right, aren't you?" I'm like, "Yes." So many people so easily went along with it just out of convenience. I had a guy, gotta be careful what I say, but I paid him £2,000 to do some work for me. And on about the third time that we got together, he said, "Well, you know how it is, Chris, don't you? You just go down the gym, you put your mask on, don't you? Just keep them happy." It's like, no, of course I don't. Well, that would mean I'm a coward, and I'm a former Royal Marines Commando. I'm like the furthest thing from a coward. And that was it, Kerry. That was the last time I'd let him keep the money. I couldn't be around someone like. Do you know what I mean? It was nothing against him. It was like you're not going to add anything to my life, mate. I should be working.
Also, actually, I've seen some doctors or chemists find steel and nano sort of in those masks. So it's another way of them trying to get this technology in you. So really, do not wear those masks, guys. And you can find that on yandex.com about masks, what they've got in them, pieces of steel to get into your system when they turn these EMFs on.
The easy way to think is when you wear a mask, you're announcing to every educated person out there, and by educated I mean people who understand health, the true nature of health, you're just announcing that you've never bothered to do a day's research in your life. And you look so foolish. and I don't mean that condescendingly, or if it sounds that's tough, but that's you just look foolish. You look like someone that is so gullible. You actually believe that there's a bogeyman that can jump from one person into the other. And I just say to anybody, before you doubt, go and try and prove it. Go and try and prove it. And then you, like the rest of us, will go, I get it now. I get the massive. You know, you undergo these procedures. What happens? You get unwell. And who do you have to go to when you're on? You go back to this lot again, and they hit you with a load more stuff, and then they've got you for life. They've got you for life, and yeah, people are waking up to Kerry. It's all good, you know. And those people.
No, go on. And
those people that went along with it, I don't judge you. It's fine. I was a pincushion in the Marines because that's what I didn't understand any of it. I'd never ever go near that hooky, crooked, evil narrative now. My body is divine. No corporate trillionaire, psychopathic, Sabbatean Frankist Kabbalist is going to sell me their snake oil. Like everyone's just got to grow up a bit on this one and start calling it out. It's not that, oh, this one's bad, but these ones are good. No, none of it. And your pets too, right? They came out as I bought my girlfriend a cat to replace her one that died. We've got this beautiful cat, black thing she is. We call her Ruby. And God, they get straight onto you when they learn you got a cat, don't they? Because you have to have them chipped these days. They're like, right, so when they'll be coming for their procedures, and you're like, they ain't never coming for it's snake oil. If we wouldn't put it in a human, well, why would I put it in that's you know, it takes some getting your head around this, Kerry. I know that I'm not. Don't mean you. I mean your audience. But once you get it, then the world just becomes such a more beautiful place. You know.
What are you saying that these vaccinations for cats and dogs to stop them getting? What is it? Begins with P. If Pova or something. Are you saying that if they eat stuff out of ponds, that doesn't work? Are you saying that?
Okay.
Actually, let's not go into that right now.
Yeah.
Because I wanted to. What have you heard on the ground? Have you heard anything on the ground? Like, because Ant Middleton seems to say, although I'm not sure if he's a Freemason or not. And Ant, if you're not, sorry, but I'm just telling you what I've heard. And I think that's to do with your logo. Have you? He says he's heard something on the ground that something might happen next year in 2027. Or is that just something to scare people? Like, because there are troops coming in that are getting trained in football grounds, foreign troops. Like, what do you think? What have you heard about that? Have you heard anything?
It doesn't have to be such a, Machiavellian Bond villain plan, Kerry, does it? The fact is less and less people are joining our military because it's a bit shit. Sorry to say, I'm just being honest, getting sent overseas to kill other teenagers so that the cabal get even richer, that doesn't appeal to people anymore like it used to. They've got better options like not losing their legs and not losing their eyes and not having to live their whole life knowing that they killed someone to make, a small stolen state even more powerful. So that's that. But then the concern there is obviously when your country is full of sub-Saharan Africans that will do that exact same job for literally like a 20th of the money, and they have no ties to this culture or this country or its people, then that becomes a concern, doesn't it? It's a bit like, have you ever been to an event lately? It's all like black security guard. I don't mean like, black British, ethnically, Afro-Caribbean or what. I mean, it's all like sub-Saharan Africans who've come here as immigrants recently that will do that job clearly for very little less money than an indigenous person would do it for. And you get this impression when you're there that they don't quite get it, do they? They're kind of stood there a bit, they've been told what to do. And if you were to go up and say, for example, oh, excuse me, I need to get across this barrier because my family's just, you kind of get the impression they'd be a bit like, no, I can't process this. I've just been told to say no. And if you then transfer that individual into our military, then you can see, what an issue.
Why would they want to fight for the UK though if they're not even British?
Because they'll get paid. Because they'll get paid. The cabal's never short of money, are they? They fund every single war. They fund both sides of each conflict. They play people off on the stock market, and they make all the money from the bonds, the bullets, and the guns.
Do you think those people have been brought over then to fight in Russia, or do you think they've been brought in to fight against Brits with martial law?
I don't think they've been brought over for anything other than to destroy the fabric of society, because the people that think they're special absolutely hate you and me and I don't want to say white purity because I'm not a fucking nationalist. I don't give a shit about any of that stuff. But in their minds, this is the stuff that they believe. They see it. They see the cradle of Europe, the white fighting male as a threat to their new world order, and they want to, emasculate it out of people. Hence all this sissifying transgender agenda, getting people so entrenched in their ego self that they're useless to anyone. They're just all squabbling on internet forums and dyeing their hair bloody purple. Or they're not doing that, but they're attacking the ones that are, playing the left and right. This is what they do, and it's about seeing the bigger picture. They want to destroy Europe. You've seen Europa. These people are evil. They've done 2 world wars and that business in New York and Washington. Even if you just brought buildings down on people's heads to make a bit of money, by not having to get rid of the asbestos, that's evil enough. Off the back of it, you went and massacred 1 million people in the Middle East that had done absolutely nothing to no one. And then you substituted puppet governments and central control banks into their countries. These people are not right, Kerry. And, we just see it for how it is. You wouldn't do that. I wouldn't do it. I don't wake up tomorrow and go, do you know what? Can I bring buildings down, right, on top of 3,000 people's heads, right, and then blame it on this guy's, and then I'm going to make a killing on the stock market because I'm going to, buy put options, basically bet against, bet that this is going to happen sort of thing. They're not well. And when it comes to the army, they don't care who joins it. They just want this mishmash of Europe, this kind of melting pot of I don't know if ever would be a melting pot, but they just want this abomination, and out of it, yeah, of course they're all going to go and sign up to fight. That's what being a mercenary is all about, isn't it? Men will sign up for money to go and do hideous acts that they don't even they've got no link to it, like the SAS, a team of former SAS guys, they sailed to Brazil. They sailed to Brazil on a yacht and they kidnapped Ronnie Biggs. They just done it for the money. I mean, it's a horrible thing to do, really. I know he was a train robber, and some people could say he should face but the guy was kind of harmless, not doing anything to no one. But these lads would go over there, kidnap him, destroy this family that he'd created over there. They didn't care. They just wanted the money and the excitement, I guess. And all these conflicts in Africa where the mercenaries sign up, they don't care what side they're on, communist, capitalist. It's just like, as long as you pay us and we get to kill a few people, yeah, job's good.
What do you think is the how do you think things are going to ravel in the UK and England and Ireland, Canada, Australia, New Zealand, Europe?
Brutal honesty. It will get worse before it gets better. Why? Kerry, you're clearly, an awake individual, but I'd imagine even you are struggling with some of the concepts I'm talking about. This is.
No,
it's,
I'm. When you mean struggling, what do you mean?
Well, what I mean is,
I understand what you're saying, everything you're
it's
talking
very
about.
hard to understand.
How evil
Yes,
they are.
sorry, I didn't mean that. I didn't mean that to sound rude. What I meant is, you know, this is a battle being fought in places which we can't see. It's a
Yeah, the
battle.
devil.
It's the age-old battle of good against evil. It's fought in Scripture. They say ours is not a battle of flesh and blood. So it's not against me and you, against other people. It's a battle with spiritual wickedness and
Yeah.
principalities in high places. That's a reference to energy, or people call it archons, the energy leechers. I don't know if I have subscribed to that, but I totally understand what they're saying, and that is that everyone's fighting their own battle, aren't they? So until people understand, go out and win it. Go out and win your battle. Just stop focusing on all this other stuff. All you're doing is you're projecting your insecurities onto every single thing else, hoping that somehow if you can fix the world, it's going to fix you. And it won't. Only you can fix you. The army's not coming to save you. Forget that.
Do
People
you,
marching behind individuals in London, they do not have your best interest at heart. They do not. The cabal, through their small stolen state, they control everything. They are so powerful, they got every single person on the planet, with the exception of a few legends like myself, and I know some of the people watching, but they got every single person on the planet locked in their homes over a fiction, and they got every single professional, accountants, lawyers, teachers, doctors, supermarket managers, the police, the armed forces, yada, yada, yada. They got everybody willingly going along with it, with the exception of a few legends. That is the extent of cabal control. You had people on islands in Polynesia that probably never seen a foreigner before, throwing themselves in the bushes when their neighbour of 40 years come by because they weren't wearing their underpants on their face. That's you want to talk about juju? That is powerful indoctrination. These individuals, they know what they're doing.
but
They know, and anything that
the good thing about that is, though, now people have woken up a bit more, right? Because of what they did. I know that a lot of people did go through it, but now the evidence is coming out about it. It has made people more aware, so that now that they can plan for the next thing, which is even worse, although taking that jab's bad as well, because sometimes the response happens 5-6 years later if you don't get detoxed. Right, so you see what I mean? Like, because of that, it's now woken people up. So, yeah, what you're saying is, I mean, these people are worshipping Lucifer, right? Whether they are actual Lucifer, I don't know. Maybe some of them are. I don't know. Maybe he's just got in their bodies. But that's what they're worshipping. That's who their God is. So that's why they're so evil. Because, yeah, we don't think like that. Do you think
well,
if Christians, that, like, if the UK hadn't, it still stayed so Christian and believed in Jesus, that it wouldn't have, we could have protected ourselves? Now, obviously, the Kabbalah, they're the reason why the UK
no,
isn't,
because religion is a
or even like acting like Jesus, obviously, because he's
no.
still peaceful. No?
Religion is a psyop. It's like one
Or
of the
faith, I mean.
biggest psyops.
If you act like Jesus, that is sort of a very pure form. So, do you think that if we'd have been more like Jesus, this wouldn't have infiltrated the UK? Or do you still think, no, it's a psyop?
Well, okay. Everything in Scripture is an allegory. An allegory just means a secret code. So you tell a story, but the story's not the story. The code is embedded in the story by the use of words, symbols, and numbers. So what the cabal did is, when the empires pulled back and they'd finished, colonizing everyone, and they ran out of money, and they started to, get, was it the Picts in northern Britain started to fight back against them, and they built Hadrian's Wall and to protect them, and eventually they pulled back to Rome in a rabble. What happened is, alongside the empires and the religious leaders and the rulers, you have the merchants, and the merchants are the controllers. The merchants are the one that own all the corporations. I mean, just look at who owns it. This isn't rocket science to work out who controls everything. And what the merchants did is they perverted everything. Over the course of history, they got rulers to stop looking after their people. They got churches to stop looking after their people. They got royalty to stop looking after their people. And instead, they got them to worship gold. How much gold they could accrue in the cellar through practices such as usury, money lending, and which is now manifested into fractional reserve banking, debt-based slavery, this sort of thing. So these empires went out there, and these scheming, conniving merchants are like always alongside the leaders going, right, you want to do that now, right, you want to do that. And when the empires fell back, what the merchants did is they left behind their secret societies. So this is things like the Masons. No disrespect to any Freemason out there, but what I'm saying, this is what they did. They did it because Masonry had long since been infiltrated, or certainly controlled by the cabal. They realized that those industries they couldn't control through the trade unions. So independent people like, seamstresses, milliners, hairstylists, this kind of thing, they controlled them through Masonry. And they left the secret societies in place. They left the banking system in place, the system of usury, and they left behind organized religion. And what organized religion does is it gets you to take your divinity and throw it away. In fact, what they actually do is they nail this poor fella to the wall, and you all have to worship him. Instead of realizing, no, that guy didn't come to show you how awesome he was. He came here to set you free and show you how awesome you are. And so, as I say, if you think of Christ as your pineal gland, and the land of milk and honey is your serotonin and your DMT, then you start to understand the true nature of religion. And it's not about trying to be like Jesus. It's about trying to be a person that doesn't live in dark temptation all the time. And that's hard. And look at society now. Most people are addicted to porn. Massive amount of society is addicted to alcohol or drugs. Those that aren't are addicted to eating or spending or shopping. And this is not a judgment. I was on drugs and alcohol for 35 years. What it's saying is that's keeping you in a lower vibrational state. It's keeping you away from enlightenment, because your pineal and your pituitary gland can't function when you toxify your body, which you do through overeating. So or, do you
believe
drugs
that Jesus did come back then?
This is what the story of Jesus is. The Christ means the anointed one. Give me oil in my lamp, keep me burning. It's a reference to the oil of gladness that your brain, your claustrum produces.
So you
this
believe
is all a
Jesus
story
came back
about
then?
Inside you.
Can you hear me?
Cabal brainwashing.
Do you believe that Jesus came back then? You believe Jesus came back?
So Jesus is your pineal gland, is what I was saying.
But what I mean is, do you believe that this person, Jesus, came back and died on the cross for us?
No. I think I know what you're saying. Are you talking about Jesus being born again, rising again?
Well, do you believe that Jesus was actually on earth and, 2,000 years ago?
Well, whether there was whether there was a historical figure that bears resemblance to the chap that we're called Jesus, possibly. I'm not, I'm not doubting that. But what I'm saying is, Scripture is way cleverer than that. It's not a history book and it's not a geography book.
Okay,
it's about your body's alchemical process.
In the scriptures. You do believe in the scriptures. Is that what you're recommending people read the Bible?
No, I believe. No, not at all, because they won't understand it. I recommend people understand it's an allegory, and that if you want, there are ways to interpret it. For a start, you can get this dictionary that I keep mentioning, but that won't really mean a lot to you unless unless you've been sort of taught a bit. There's a wonderful YouTube channel called William Donahue, that I suggest everybody gets on. There's a chap called John St. Julian, Kelly Marie Kerr. These are all initiates. So these are people that walk in the light, and they're very. Or my channel, I talk about this all the time. This is this is how you'd get to understand it, Kerry.
Okay.
I know it's confusing. It's meant to be. If this was easy to learn, everybody would know it, wouldn't they? And would all, this requires effort. You got to love yourself. You got to love society. You got to want to put some time in and kind of and it's fun. I love it. It's a great skill to have, to be able to read an ancient text and understand this isn't talking about people having babies and shoving them in a manger. This is a different story altogether.
And what do you think when you say you think the UK is going to get worse before it's going to get better? Do you mean another war then, or something like that? Do you think that AI is going to take over?
Well, I think everything goes in cycles. I think we're far from the place yet that I mentioned earlier of realizing we're all a divine manifestation of God. Once you realize that, then you want the best for people, because you're both a manifestation of the same thing. So it doesn't suit your purposes to see someone upset or to accrue a load of money over at the expense of other people and this sort of thing. And it certainly doesn't serve your interest to go to war and kill people. Scripture says, thou shalt not kill. The reason it says that isn't because, you're supposed to be a bloody do-gooder or something. It says it because it's a fundamental misunderstanding of who you are. Because if you're a manifestation of God, and so is your enemy, then if your fabled enemy, I should say, if you kill them, you've just killed God. You've just killed a manifestation of God. What were you thinking? This is why it says that. Same with blasphemy. Blasphemy isn't about having a potty mouth or anything. It's about that when you go, oh, God, you're externalizing your divinity. You're taking something that's inside you and so special, and that is your key to your emancipation. And what you've done, you've externalized it as though it's a guy sat on a cloud in the sky. And that just puts you at polar opposite of understanding who you are and what this is all about. So I think we're a long way, Kerry, from that kind of place, aren't we? It's a difficult one. I think people like ourselves, we do tend to live in echo chambers because the algorithm will keep feeding us it will keep confirming our views by feeding us. It's like Twitter. It never stops feeding me stuff about Israel because it knows that's what's my interest. And it gets to the point where it seems like everybody on Twitter agrees with what you've worked out. But of course, that's the algorithm. There's also a lot of people on Twitter that's totally fundamentally disagree. There's still so many people that just think Israel's just a benign country in the Middle East and those bloody Palestinians should stop attacking it. They have no understanding about the reality of what function that small stolen state serves. So you know, it doesn't matter to me what happens. You know I don't live in the future, Kerry. You know, this is an enlightenment. I don't live in the future. I live now. And there's enough to be getting on with, you know. I have to keep myself fit. I have to exercise. I have to stay off the drugs, stay off the alcohol. I have to make sure I feed myself an alkaline diet so I don't get sick, so that when I summit Everest in May, I'm not going to put my life in danger. I have to make sure that I'm in service to people, that every aspect of how I set myself up as a human means I'm serving other individuals, because life is only about service. I have to make sure that I'm a good partner. I have to make sure I'm a good parent. I have to make sure that I don't spend too much time scrolling or doing all these, you know, negative behaviors. There's just so much I need to be doing. I haven't got time to be putting the world to right and telling other people how to live their life. It's just way too much to be getting on with myself. But here's the thing, yeah, at least I do that. At least I try to do it. I'm far from perfect. I'm just a human being like everybody else. But when you see 3 million people or whatever it was alleged to be marching in London, and they're all, you know, they all want change, how many of them are actually prepared to change their lives to get it? How many of them actually go back from that march and go back to, you know, beating up their partner, or go via Tesco and get a bottle of wine to down, or you know, get online and start abusing people in a chat forum, or what seems to be quite the normal thing to do now, or go buy McDonald's and go, oh, it's just, you know, it's just a once off or whatever, and feed their junk food habit. And again, I'm not judging an individual. I've done all of those things. I've done them to death. This is not about like making people fit. It's about getting people to understand, if you want change, it starts with you. You've got to stop living in a low vibrational state. You know, you haven't got to. You do whatever you like, but you know, this is a massive bonus for us. This means that we can take charge of whether we wake up tomorrow morning in paradise or not. And yeah, I think that's the main sort of concern. And when everyone lives in paradise and manifests the divine within them, there'll be no war, will there? There'll be no phony baloney religion, you know, getting people to externalize their divinity. There'll be no fear. There'll be no people going along with stuff. Well, you know, it just made my life easier to go along with it and all this kind of stuff. So, yeah.
Talking about Everest.
Interesting times, I think they say.
Yeah. Talking about Everest, where can people support you with that then? Your climb in May.
Oh. I couldn't hear that, Kerry. Did you say where can people get hold of me? I'm going to answer what I thought Kerry was asking me. Where can you get hold of me? You can do that on YouTube. Just type in Chris Thrall, or Facebook, Chris Thrall. Instagram on chris.thrall. You can visit my website. And if you can contribute to my upcoming Mount Everest summit to shine a light for our struggling veterans and to draw the link between adverse childhood experiences, so childhood trauma, and the veteran suicide rate, the unpleasant, well, all suicide's unpleasant, isn't it? But the unpleasant rate we're seeing people in the veterans community take their own lives. Then you can go to gofundme.com/Challenge Everest. In May, I'm going to summit Everest to shine a light for our struggling veterans, just like I struggled when I left the military, and show them there's always light at the end of the tunnel. And if people can help me on my mission, I want to raise awareness of the fact that we're losing an awful lot of veterans in the military community who are taking themselves out the picture, if I can say that. And nobody's talking about the link between childhood trauma and complex PTSD. And until we start addressing it and taking this situation seriously, we're going to keep losing more wonderful people. And it affects us all, Kerry. I rowed across the Atlantic in January. The guy that was supposed to be rowing the Atlantic with us in our sister boat, you know, he took his life earlier last year. And he was such a great guy, and everybody loved him. And to be in that dark place, I can only suggest it stems from our childhood programming. It certainly didn't stem from his experience in conflict, because I read his book and he didn't hardly even mention the conflict, but he did mention like 3 or 4 chapters on what was quite a traumatic childhood.
Well, great work there, trying to, you know, bring light to that to help more people. And I'll drop all your social media links, guys, in the comments, so you can give Chris a follow. And good luck with your Everest climb. Yeah, thanks so much for coming on today, Chris.
No, the pleasure's all ours, Kerry. Thank you for, you know, asking these questions, because, you know, the truth can't lie, can it? And if we all speak our truth, not what we've been told to say off the TV, then people will start joining the dots, and let's create a better future than what we've got now.
Yeah, let's live in the truth.
Definitely.
Here's another video for you coming up here, where it's showing you exactly what is going on that you should watch now.